party people. Well, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I am joined once again by my good friend Taylor LaBresh, host of Games Closet, an incredible game designer who, for the next between 63 hours and 4 days as of the time of this episode released, will be kickstarting not one but two incredible games that are almost done. They're both fully funded with stretch goals. Go back them both. Descent into Midnight, which we played a few weeks ago on the show, was a delight. Great game. Cannot recommend it enough. Taylor is also kickstarting The Treasure at the End of This Dungeon is an escape from this dungeon, and we will never escape from this dungeon, which is a kaleidoscopic roguelike dungeon crawler that plays with traditional Dungeons & Dragons-esque tropes to create something haunting and weird, and it just sounds amazing, and I want you to back it and make it happen, because it's very cool. I mean, it's already funded, but go get your copy, because it's extremely cool. And speaking of incredible games that Taylor has designed, we're actually playing this one this week. We are playing Breakup on Re-Entry. Breakup on Re-Entry is a game of doomed romance and mech combat told through the lens of two mech pilots from warring states, both of whom do not know that their one true love is piloting the mech of their bitterest enemy. It is so cool. It is tragically violent and introspective, and I have not been able to stop thinking about it since we played it because we told a really beautiful, heartbreaking story that I think you're going to love. Go check the show notes for information about Breakup on Re-Entry, The Treasure at the End of This Dungeon, and Descent into Midnight, because they're all good, as well as all the other projects Taylor's got going on, because, goddammit, I love Taylor. Taylor, I bet you're listening to this, and I love you to death. And, with that, why don't we go ahead and throw it over to me in the past, so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me.
Thanks, future me. This week, I am joined once again by my dear friend Taylor LaBresh. Taylor, thank you so much for coming back on Party of One.
Hell yeah. Thank you for having me, Jeff. I said it before we started recording, but it's a joy to hear your voice. It's a joy to hang out with you. And it will be a joy to play this game with you.
I'm so excited. I feel exactly the same way. I feel like every time we sit down to do a podcast together, it is a treasured moment of my weekend and my day. So, I'm just really happy to have you here. This is going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. So, real quick, at the top of the show, before we introduce the game that we're playing this week, because we're going to do some back and forth introductions, why don't you take a moment and let the lovely listeners at home know about all of the other cool things you've got going on that you might want them to know about?
Hell yeah. So my name is Taylor LaBresh. I run Riverhouse Games. It is just essentially a way for me to not put my real name on stuff, but Riverhouse Games, we do podcasts. So there is Game Closet, which is an informal chat show with queer and LGBT plus folks in the tabletop scene. Jeff, thank you for being a past guest on that.
I believe I am not just a past guest.
You are the past guest.
I believe I currently hold the record, at least at the time of this recording, of most frequent guest, a title that I will die before I give to Aaron Catano Saez.
Yep. So, the rivalry continues between you and your All My Fantasy Children podcast host. Hell yeah. You can find Game Closet on iTunes and other places where podcasts are found. I also have two other podcasts that I do that I really love that are smaller. One is the RSS Defiant, which is a Star Trek Deep Space Nine rewatch podcast and ranking podcast. So we are going through episode by episode, talking about each episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine and ranking them from best to worst. It rules. I'm doing it with my partner Lauren and two of our great friends, Kyle and Kirsten. The other podcast that I do is called Apple Bottom V, and that's an acronym for a podcast loosely based on the Minnesota Vikings. Where my good friend Dan and I watch each episode of the television show NFL and talk about our favorite characters, which are, of course, the Minnesota Vikings.
Sure. I believe that's one of the two teams that you said you root for at any given time, the other being the reason that I'm ending this recording right now.
Whoever's facing the Philadelphia Eagles.
So, yeah.
They're not even the Vikings' rivals. It's just I hate them so much.
That's fair. No, that's fair. That's fair. But at the same time, go Birds. So I can't judge. I understand.
Skull. Hell yeah. I also write games over at riverhousegames.itch.io. I don't know if it will be kickstarting when this goes live, but check out Descent into Midnight. We are looking to jump into our Kickstarter mid-February.
This actually,
so-
I'll make sure. I will release this during the Kickstarter. That'll happen.
Hell yeah. I was also going to talk to you, Jeff, about maybe if we could do a Kickstarter Descent into Midnight Party of One, but we could talk offline about that.
All right, sounds great.
Hell yeah.
Listeners, look forward to
that. Sick. So, yeah, that is where I am. I'm on Twitter at Leviathan Files.
Excellent. Well, this week I am deeply, deeply excited. So we are playing one of your games. We are playing a game, a competitive role-playing game about betrayal. Humanity reaches ever towards the stars, though there are some who demand we keep our feet solidly on Earth's crust. In this future, we reach into heaven and kill our gods. In their place, we build Mecha. Unbelievably large, mobile suits, capable of inflicting grievous harm. These monsters of war require pilots, but not everyone can handle the strenuous neural load required to move these divine robots. Mecha pilots must be intense, dramatic, and most importantly, secret. Breakup on re-entry.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
So we are playing Breakup on Re-Entry. It is a game about betrayal.
I'm so excited.
Yeah. So Jeff and I are going to be playing two mecha pilots. The first generation of mecha pilots were all killed in their sleep, slaughtered by both opposing factions in a wash of interstellar blood. We are one of the second generation, pilots who keep our roles hidden from the world and from those we love. This is a role-playing game for two pilots who do not know yet that their mortal enemy sleeps by their side every night. This game deals with war, betrayal, and the end of a relationship, maybe even the end of our characters' lives. So, Jeff, we should be honest with one another about how we're feeling while playing this game. We will check in with one another and with ourselves throughout play, and it's okay to step away or stop playing if we need to.
Yep.
We are going to sit across from each other, so via Hangouts.
Yep.
And get each other in our sights. This is the final confrontation between us as our armies battle in the skies above. Our mecha enter the atmosphere of this moon, sparking fire as they blaze through the air, drawn to the surface by planetary gravity and drawn to each other by fate. We are pilots unaware that our lovers are the chief rivals in the conflict that rages above us. As players, we know that the person across from us holds both identities, but the character that we're playing does not. To our character, there are two individuals. One holds a place in your heart and spends their days working a confidential job. Most careers are highly secretive to prevent corporate leaks. The other fights for everything that we hate. Though we may not hold the pilot inside with contempt, their mecha is emblazoned with the symbols of our enemy. Our characters know one by their name and the other by their call sign that's painted on the robot. We will not know the true identity of our enemy until we play the King of Hearts. So we're going to play in clashes, like hands of cards. Mm-hmm. So we have a deck of cards that we've pulled together in Roll20.
Yep.
We've removed some cards to shorten the game. If we were playing a longer game, we would use all 52 cards in the deck. We will put the King of Hearts somewhere near the bottom here, and then we'll play down to that. So we are going to be essentially just playing in hands. We're going to try to take tricks. So, Jeff, as each of us owns a clash between our two robots, we will be drawing cards. Each card is going to correspond to a question that we will answer about the world. So, maybe if we are playing diamonds, we'll talk about the world's culture, the positions that we find ourselves in. If we play clubs, we will talk about the war that we find our two factions in between Earth and the colonies. If we play a spade, we will talk about the fight at hand, the immediate clash between the two mecha. And if we play a heart, we will talk about each other. We will explore aspects of the relationship between these two lovers who are in the robots.
Sounds great.
At the end of the game, we're going to count how many cards we have stolen from each other. That will tell us who, quote-unquote, wins. Spoiler alert, this game was written for the Sad Mech Jam, so both of us will lose.
Which is my favorite. It's my favorite thing.
Yeah. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, but I do want to go grab my mouse real quick so that I'm not hitting this big, loud trackpad button. So give me 2 seconds.
So while Jeff is away, I'm going to take this time to just talk a little bit about how much I love Party of One and All My Fantasy Children. They are great podcasts. Party of One consistently reminds me of what games can do player to player, and All My Fantasy Children is just like a warm reminder of like every like assurance that I need as a creative person to keep doing the things that I love doing. So obviously, you are listening to Party of One. Please go also listen to All My Fantasy Children. If you are listening to Party of One for the first time, following some of my stuff into Jeff's world, please subscribe to this podcast. I love it. It's great. It's weekly. It showcases a lot of really great games and a lot of really great people who I've found through the show.
All right.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Jeff,
I've been back for like a minute now. I just wanted to sit and listen to it. All right. Well, I'm ready to get into this. Let's draw some cards and get sad.
Let's do it. We are going to define a couple things before we jump into the card drawing. So if you want to click into Roll20, you will see I've built index cards for both of us. There are 5 things that we are going to define just kind of as play. The first is going to be our pilot's name and their call sign. We are then going to decide whether which one of us is fighting for Earth and which one of us is fighting for the colonies. We'll talk about a striking feature of our mecha and maybe the color scheme. We will talk about why we can't stop fighting, and then we'll talk about our favorite memory of our relationship.
Okay, sounds great. Let's see. Do you have one that you want to start on?
Yeah, I think my name and call sign. I love the like Mobile Suit Gundam naming convention that has like bled into Friends at the Table, where it's just like inscrutable words that are put together.
Likewise.
So I think my pilot's name is Humidor.
That's real good. Yep.
And the last name Inscrutable. Humidor Inscrutable.
That's real good. That's real good. My pilot's name is, let's go Luxor. Luxor's cool.
Yeah.
Luxor Obarian.
And then I think my mech's call sign is going to be
my mech's call sign is, I feel like we're two people that love names, and now we're hearing us both like really think, like sit here and chew on it.
Yeah, we got to be at the top of our game.
I know, right?
So, Jeff, how do you feel about being a little bit lighthearted with this?
I can go a little lighthearted.
Okay. Because I have had a Jaeger name since like Pacific Rim came out.
All right.
Which is the hot dish you betcha.
Yeah, all right. I'm down with that.
All right. Humidor Inscrutable pilots the hot dish you betcha.
My ship name is, I'm gonna go Podcast Static.
That rules.
Yep. Podcast Static. Do you want to fight for the Earth or the colonies?
So we have not yet assigned like any sort of background about what that means, which I think is intentional.
Yep.
I am gonna fight for Earth.
All right, I'll fight for the colonies. I'm gonna add a world building detail immediately, which is that because they are the colonies, they are a series of interconnected space stations, like asteroids. You know, they are a bunch of small interspersed like stations, colonies, research vessels, satellites, all that kind of stuff. Which means that like communication channels are very important. Which is why a name like Podcast Static makes a lot of sense as a name. It is emphasizing that this is the idea of, you know, podcasting as a form of communication, as a form of connection, is very important in keeping the bonds of colonies alive. Podcast Static is implying that this is severing those lines of communication. This is, which is a tragic but important thing for a mecha to do, which is like breaking from the pack to do what must be done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you know what's great is taking something silly and making it very serious.
You have to, yeah. I don't have a serious explanation
That's
for
fine.
hot dish you betcha. I just think it sounds good.
No, that's fine. It doesn't. I don't think. I feel like there might even be a scene in the drama where somebody's like, "So why hot dish you betcha?" I like hot dish.
I like it. It sounds good. It's a good name. My striking feature, I think that the hot dish you betcha has like jump wings,
Mm-hmm.
which are they look like the bones of like a bat wing,
Mhm.
and then each like spire out of them has like little jump jets on it that turn into like feathered fire.
Mine is neon piping, neon like light piping across like a black marble metal frame. It's got these big giant like light panels that as it, flies very quickly, it just creates these almost tassel effects, for lack of a better way to describe it. A lot of tails are flying off of the podcast static.
Yeah, I love that. For a color scheme, I'm thinking the hot dish you betcha is purple, white, and yellow because obviously.
Sure, yeah.
Why I can't stop fighting. This is where we're getting into some of the world building, like, not that we haven't before, but we're going to decide some things about why we fight. I think I've got a family vendetta.
I'm going to specifically use the very specific phrase, a misguided Superman mentality.
Ooh, okay.
Where it's, if I don't take the hit, someone else, the idea that the Superman idea of if I don't take the hit, someone else will. It's if I don't stop fighting, if I don't keep the fight here with me, separated from everyone, you know what I mean? Like if I'm not fighting on the front lines, then the fight goes to the doorsteps and to the homes of the people that I care about. So I have to be out here on the front lines doing what has to be done, which is misguided and somewhat toxic of a mindset, but it is how I'm picturing this fight.
Yeah, I love it. And then my favorite memory of Luxor. What are Luxor's pronouns?
Luxor is he, his.
Okay, I think Humidor is as well.
Okay.
Oh, I think Luxor proposed to Humidor at the top of the Eiffel Tower.
I love that. Yep, that's real good. My favorite memory is actually after the first time that we slept together, just being in bed and being perfectly still for a very long time. Like we just laid there kind of like a little sweaty and exhausted and content. Like there was just a contentness in the air that we just basked in for a very long time.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways I've wanted that moment has sort of defined our relationship, at least to Luxor, it is that moment, that quiet shared together defines a lot of like our time together.
Hell yeah.
All right. So what happens now? We've done some world building questions.
Yep. So we now are going to draw cards.
Okay.
Draw
7 cards from the top of your deck. Draw 7 cards from the deck into our hands. We're going to draw 7 cards.
So that is 14 in total. I'm going to keep track.
All right.
And then, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
I will go first.
Cool. So, I will read the last little flavor text here. We stare through view screens at each other's mecha, unable to see the pilot inside, poised to end the conflict with one final confrontation. Whoever powers their suit's weapon systems goes first. I think Luxor, sparks the weapon systems up. We can stop fighting at any time. Only we can decide what happens then.
Okay.
So we'll have you play down the first card, set us out.
All right.
In a suit.
I'm going to play the 2 of clubs to start our clash.
Okay.
So I want to answer this question, correct?
Yep.
The club. So this clash is about the events of the war. This feels like a good place to start, right? This feels like a good way to set up what the war looks like. Kind of will help, I think, color a lot of how we interact with each other and how we view a lot of the other things.
Yeah.
The two of clubs is what vital public service was canceled a year into fighting. I kind of touched on it a little bit in the world building. I think it is tying into the idea of podcasts, and I'm leaning hard into making podcasts extremely important as a podcaster. It is telecommunications. It is like live communication. Like live communication lines were just like shut down because they were too easily intercepted. They were too easily like observed and too easily kind of spied on. So live communication was shut down in favor of like encrypted pre-recorded messages, which, you know, that's kind of where that's how people in the colonies and across the colonies communicate now, is like they record, they encrypt, and they send. There's no real like live phone calls or face-to-face conversations happening across colonies anymore.
Hell yeah. So I'm going to see your 2 of clubs.
Okay.
I'm going to raise you the 8 of clubs. Why are you willing to fight for your faction no matter what? And I think I said, I can't stop fighting because of this family vendetta. And I think that that's really what fuels Humidor, is that there is this long vendetta in the Inscrutable family against the colonies of the original colonies. I think snubbed great grandma Humidor, or great grandma Inscrutable, and said, like, we're leaving you behind.
Yeah.
You do not have the skills that we need to start life in space, despite the work that she put in to enable that first mission. So even before the politics polarized our society, the Inscrutables hated the idea of going into space. So when Humidor was of age to enlist, he was one of the first people to climb into that second generation of mech.
I love it. I love it a lot. That's very good. So I'm going to see your 8 of clubs, and I'm going to raise you the 9 of clubs. The 9 of clubs here is when the skies became unsafe, you moved to ground travel. With this slower method of transportation, what part of your life did you have to cut out? So that's really interesting, thinking about a series of interconnected like stations and such. I think it really was travel. Ground travel, like that. If they are cutting out sky travel, that means they are cutting out intercolony travel, right? That means that like it is exponentially harder to go from one colony to the other, which just means that there was this sense of leaning into it a little bit. There was this sense of the idea of like snubbing makes me think of a lot of like aristocracy and a lot of like, the haves and have-nots a little bit. So I think there's this element of like, there was this sort of cosmopolitan flair of hopping from colony to colony that I think has now been like kind of locked down and been replaced with, to a certain extent, like a paranoia. And I think that kind of is reflected in Luxor being the first one to power on the weapons and sort of being very eager to bring the fight to the doorstep of Earth, because it's like, no, we have to strike, because if we don't, they will.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Cool.
I see your 9 of clubs. I'm going to raise you a 10 of clubs. What do you carry with you at night to feel safe on the streets?
What do I carry? Oh, sorry. It's your question. I don't know why I was about to answer that. It's like, I have answers.
I think that Humidor carries, because like my first knee jerk is like some kind of weapon. I don't like that answer.
It feels easy. That feels like an easy answer.
Yeah. I think he carries an in case of emergency card.
I like that.
And it's like, it's this laminated card of like contact information. Maybe like, I think he's allergic to a couple medicines, and that's written on there. And it's got Luxor's like phone number on it, and then like the number of the Inscrutable like family medical account.
I love that it's a hard copy, right? I love that it's
Yeah.
because that adds this element. It kind of, to me, and feel free to throw this out or take it in another direction, but it kind of feels like it adds some of that same paranoia on the Earth side of things, of like having hard copies so that digital data can't be messed with.
Yeah. It can't be hacked,
Yeah,
stolen,
exactly.
or blocked.
Right.
Like, you can't jam a laminated medical card.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I'm going to see your jack. I'm going to see your 10 and raise you the jack.
Yeah.
So the jack is, let me read the question on the jack. What makes me the best pilot in the fleet? It is, I am quiet and patient. I am very good at tuning things out. That's actually part of why static was kind of added to my call sign, was that I'm very good at just kind of letting static bleed in and like kind of wash over myself, so that, you know, the explosions and the screaming computers all kind of fade out, and I just kind of am able to focus and do the thing that needs to be done.
Hell yeah. So I cannot beat a jack.
All right.
So you win this clash. So you take these 5 cards into your pile.
I will put up here. I'll actually put it by my index card.
And then what I want you to do now is tell me how you land a blow on my mecha, and then I will tell you what is damaged.
Okay. So I think setting the scene is this is happening around like a moon colony.
Mm-hmm.
We are overhead. And so I've got these panels, right? I've got these light panels, and from one of them, like we're heading straight for each other. We start out with a game of chicken, essentially. We're starting out like almost jousting. We're just soaring at each other at high speed, and it's just whoever kind of like flicks their wrist will, you know, veer off to the side and be caught in a down, or in a like defensive and kind of losing position, which I think is Luxor. Like Luxor, he flicks it, but he gets so close that he's able to kind of like from one of these light panels that kind of runs along straight down from the top of his wrist, where his where the mech's middle and ring finger meet, down to like the mid length on the top side of his wrist. A laser blade like flies out. Think Baraka from Mortal Kombat, where like that laser blade on top of the wrist, and he just like slashes the side of your mecha with it, putting himself in this defensive position, but cutting it so close that he's able to just like gash or like gore you with this blade.
Yeah. And I think it like cuts straight through one of the like jump wings gas lines. And there's this like big fire explosion, and the hot dish you betcha is sent like plummeting down to the moon's surface.
Love it.
And it like we see this like long shot of this like streak of light down, and then this puff of like moon dust, and then a close cut to the crater, and we see the hot dish you betcha like servos whirring, pulling out, and then looking up, and we get like a very close shot of the visor reflecting like the stars in space as the podcast static like touches down on the moon.
Love it. So should I draw back up to 7 then? Should I be
Yes.
Should I be drawing after every card draw?
No, after the clash.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. Because otherwise, in theory, we could just do the entire game in one clash.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I've drawn back up to 7.
One rule that I forgot, and this is entirely a formality, but after we answer every card, the way to tell the other player that we are done with our description or our answering the question is to ask them if they want to keep fighting.
Got it. Okay.
Yep. So I will start this clash with, and I think this is just a duke 'em out fight.
Yeah.
Here for a little bit, because I'm going to start out with spades.
Okay.
With a 9 of spades. So 9 of spades. What surprises you about your opponent's advance? So yeah, I think you you land softly in the dust where the hot dish you betcha had like created an impact. And as I'm like wiping the moon dust from my visual sensors, like I clear one, and then we get like a shot from inside the cockpit, and the display just sees that laser blade come like straight through, and just like razor sharp, very quick advances. And we get like that very like, that approach is so calm and calculated, and just like clanging of these blades. And I'm on the defensive, pulling back and back with the quickness and precision.
So
do you want to keep fighting?
I do, but I also cannot beat a 9. So this clash is entirely like, how do you get the upper hand on me immediately in this next clash?
I think like, because you're trying to come at me so quickly, and I just back up into the crater, and I don't think that you're ready for the gravity differential. And I could see that you're off balance, and so I just like pull a foot up, and like slam an elbow down into your visor, and your head like bounces off the moon's surface.
Oh, and what I lose here is the foot that you bring up, like you bring it up and you just kick it square into my chest, and like the entire chest compartment collapses a little bit, and there's just blinking lights, and the air filtration system becomes damaged. So we get a shot of me in the cockpit, and there's just like noxious smoke, and a gas mask falls down, and I've got to like scramble to put it on as the mech is like scrambling to get to its feet. I'm like putting on a gas mask, and I'm like getting it. The goggles come down over my eyes so I can see, and I'm full on in like life support mode. Whereas nice. Before I was wearing like what is ultimately a very fashionable, very sleek, very Star Trek Enterprise-esque jumpsuit is how it was. The specific Star Trek that the specific Star Trek aesthetic that I wanted is Enterprise, not any of the other ones.
Nice. I took a leap knowing that 9 was high, but I did want to have just like a punchy scene.
No, I think it's perfect, and I love that it was just like, I love that it was a quick punchy scene where it's just you kick the shit out of me.
Yeah.
All right. Should I start the next clash?
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna throw down a diamond, and I'm gonna throw down a 5 of diamond.
Okay.
A 5 of diamond is civilian life. 5 is, why is it so hard to get a decent cup of coffee? I think as this is happening, as I'm clambering to my feet, I'm wearing these nice clothes, but they're synthetic fibers, right? They are all, space engineered, somewhere like a really fancy polyester, which is, I think, counterintuitive, but like, it's all synthetics, right? There's nothing natural, which is ultimately why it's so damn hard to get a decent cup of coffee, because it's all, polymers, and it's all, like gene engineered. It's not from coffee beans, and it's not really from like enzymes pulled from coffee beans. It's all, like amino acid chains that have been created to create the physical effects of coffee, because our supply lines are so damaged and so like cut that we are basically making photocopies of photocopies of photocopies. Like it is, and so it just affects everything. It affects our ability to create anything. So, while we have this appearance, this sort of gilded appearance of luxury, it is just, everything is just pure artificial. So all the coffee tastes tinny.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's so hard to get a decent cup of coffee. It's why all of my clothes are kind of like a little shinier than they should be. And it's why my chest cavity crumbled as I climbed to my feet, and I kind of try to like my hand straightens out a little bit and kind of starts to form into a bit of a Mega Man cannon as those light panels kind of start to twirl around the edge of my wrist, and I just start to take aim. Do you want to keep fighting?
I would love to keep fighting. With an 8 of diamonds. A few years ago, both your parents passed away. How? And I think that both of my parents were first-generation mecha pilots. And what we know from like the setting that we get from the base game is that the first generation, their identities were public, and many of them were just like killed in their sleep. And I think that that's what happened to my parents, is that like, I think I woke up one day hearing their alarm go off and not having one of them turn it off. And I don't think that we get like details in the story about why, but like I think that there's definitely like it's on like one of the covers of the DVDs, like when you get the box set of this series, like it's this image of like a very baby humidor just like standing at the door of his parents' room with his blanket. And we don't know what happens, but we know that they were killed.
And I can't beat an 8. Now,
nice.
So hearts, I could play a heart here, but it still would have to be higher than an 8, correct? Yeah,
yes,
all right,
correct.
yeah, I can't beat an 8. You got this.
So I'm going to move those over to my side. And then I think like I see your Mega Man hand charging, and I think I just kick a moon rock straight into it and it explodes.
Oh yeah, and that's what I've lost, is the hand explodes and it's just a pile of sparking wire. And now I'm trying to figure out how I can use this in a fight.
Nice. All right. I've grabbed another card.
I have grabbed another card. All right, go ahead.
I'm going to go hearts. I'm going to go 2 of hearts. Okay. Hearts are your lover. The 2 of hearts is, how do you keep your pilot activities secret from your lover? And so I think we both like, because we live together, we both get up at the same time, and we leave for quote unquote work around the same time. And I think that like outside of these battles, pilot life is pretty droll.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of like watching tape and like practicing drills and stuff, but for the most part it's just like sitting in maybe a theater with a notepad and like scribbling stuff. So I think like it's decently easy outside of these very infrequent but dramatic clashes of violence. It's very easy to keep pilot life secret because for the most part it's as dull as like keeping an Excel sheet of logistic information.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think that I just don't talk about work. Maybe we have a blanket like, hey, we don't bring the office home kind of thing. And I tell you that I'm like a buyer for a department store. I like source jackets, and I'm like, well, another boring day buying jackets.
Oh yeah, and I'm a securities analyst for a research firm. So I'm just like making sure that all of our documents are copyrighted. Everything is bookmarked, though everything is sourced the way it's supposed to. I'm double checking citations all day. It's boring, but it's fine. And that's my cover story.
Nice.
I would like to keep fighting though, because I'm going to drop down the 5 of hearts.
Ooh.
The 5 of hearts is we have disagreed. We have disagreed on whether or not we should leave Earth. Why do I think that I can still change your mind and bring you to the colonies? I think it is because you've just never... It's almost cliche to say, but like, you know, even after so long, there's just something about seeing the stars from a different planet. There's something about the way it changes everything. You know, seeing... You've never experienced Earth like you will from the moon. You've never experienced the moon like you will from the asteroid fields. Like, it's all this just it's impossible to explain it. It's just seeing it changes the way that you think about it. And I still think that I could get you to, I think if I could ever get you to see it in that way, if I could ever get you to leave Earth, I know that you're such a homebody, but if I could ever get you there, I think you'd never be able to go back. Taylor, would you like to keep fighting?
I would like to keep fighting, but I don't have anything that can beat a 5.
All right. So I think we get a flash of this conversation, right? We get a flash of the two of us talking, telling this story, and we're talking about this instead of talking about work, right? This long conversation of the two of us making up these stories and talking about you being a homebody and telling you, I want to take you to the star. I want to take you to the stars. I want you to see it from a perspective that you've never seen before.
Yeah, and I think Humidor always falls back on the well, travel is dangerous, or this isn't the great time of year. The rates are just too high, or just it's excuse after excuse. But that it's that family pride of I will never, my feet will never leave this dirt.
And I there's this moment where I hear you're saying this, and I'm just like, well, you just gotta go for it, and you're just something about the way you're so sensible. I just kind of I just jump your bones, and I'm kissing you deeply, and we cut, and there's this moment of it's the perfect reflection of what could almost be. As we flash back, my arm is a smoldering mess.
Yeah.
And I'm I'm staggering back, and I reach back, and I pull off, I grab at my wing pack, which are these very kind of, they're kind of the sleek, somewhat between a Buzz Lightyear or just a classic, mech wings. Except they're the slightly bat-ish wings, because I grab them and I throw them at you. It detaches and I throw them at you, and a jet from the center, bursts out, and it starts, it just sails at you with razor-tinged wings and just, collides with you, almost like a battle axe.
Rad. I think it pierces through my my mech's chest, and there's flashing signs of radioactive warnings. And it's just sticking straight out of the chest, and I think the hot dish you betcha pulls it out, and you can see this sparking and this red glow as the metal starts overheating. But then he readies and wields it like a club and comes at you for this next clash. Right. So you already have your 7. I'm going to take this top card, build up to 7. I have not been keeping up with my count, but I think this might. So we both have 14 plus
17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. I think 24 cards are out, so why don't we put in the heart now?
So the game does not end when we hit the King of Hearts. The game will end when we run through the cards, but the King of Hearts will have a very dramatic event that will happen in the game. That is that we will discover who one of us is.
Okay, so we have now so we've passed the midway point of the game, so we have shuffled the cards into the deck, or we've shuffled the King of Hearts into the deck.
Yep. When one of us plays the King of Hearts, the prompt for those listening at home, the prompt will be actually, why don't we leave it up? We'll leave it up to play. Who started that last one? Was that
you started that last one.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, you started the last one because it was hearts, right? Yeah.
Yep. So you're up.
Okay. I'm going to throw down some spades. Cool. So I'm throwing down the 4 of spades, which is the fight at hand. So we're my opponent has taken to the skies, and do I follow? So you take off, and there's this moment, and I think without hesitation, right? I think the only hesitation is waiting for my jetpack to re-land on my back, And I think actually even before that, I'm finally used to the moon gravity, so I like get a running leap, and then the jet slams on my back, and I am already deep in pursuit. Do you want to keep fighting?
Nice. I do want to keep fighting. So one quick note about aces. Aces are ones, but they do beat a king.
Got it. Okay.
If they do beat a king, they then go back to being a 1, so someone could then, in theory, win the trick with a 2.
That's interesting.
Yep. So it's a loop around. Yep. Not that I'm going to play an ace, because I'm going to play a 7. 7 of spades is, what weapon does your opponent wield that you are unprepared for? And I think it's just like, as you jump up to intercept me as I'm flying away with like my busted wing jets, I like look down and I see these plates like come out of your shoulder pads and just like form a cone around your mecha's head, and you just bust into me. Like you just ram straight into me.
Dope.
With these protective plates. And it sends both of us like careening off into orbit of this moon. So we're like very high up now. Do you want to keep fighting?
I do want to keep fighting, because I'm going to throw down the king of spades. My opponent lands a crushing blow. What vital system is destroyed? I think this is this, and it ties perfectly into this, because like this drill is a desperation move, because like it basically like kind of crushes the head of the mech a little bit.
Ooh,
and
okay.
Which is where all of the it's not where the cockpit is, but it is where a lot of the sensors and the the detection systems and like the various other, the brains of the thing are in the head, and it clamps it. It's very much just a like, this is I got one shot and I'm using this to take you out, and you just like power through it. You grab my shoulders and you just like I drill into you, and you just, like, knock the head of the mech off. So all of those, and I'm sitting there, noxious smoke is gassing in, and all of my screens just start to go black, and it's just, fuck.
Sick. So I will play my ace now, because I have the ace of spades. Your opponent swings. How do you avoid their blows this time? And I think like just with that screen off, you slam almost like an autopilot, like programmed attack matrix in to just like to keep me from just landing the destruction blow. And I think it's easy to avoid these blows because they are in like very predictable attack patterns, but they are erratic enough that I can't press the attack further in this time. So it buys you those like vital seconds to recuperate and get things connected again.
Right. I am going to I would like to keep fighting, because I would like to play the 6 of spades.
Ooh.
Your opponent lands a solid blow. What pain do you feel? You kind of knock my hands away. Like I'm throwing wild swings, and you knock my hands away and kind of like clap into the midsection of the mech and just crunch it further, and like just the force and that jostling and the it bumps me, bump, 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 and I slam against wall after wall after wall, and like you now see like my visor is cracked and there's just blood trickling down the side of my mouth. Would you like to keep fighting?
I would love to keep fighting, Jeff, because I have the 10 of spades.
Okay.
My opponent lands a serious blow. What major system is damaged? And I think with that, like, I think the oh goodness, I crush your midsection and I get ready to like throw you back down to the moon. And I think I do even a little bit, but then I realize the chain that is extending from like your still intact hand, like your wrist, and I see the spike that you've like secretly implanted into my wing jet, and as you fall, the gravity that's pulling you down does more to rip apart that vital system than any blow that you could have like landed on me. So like you've attached part of your mech to a very fragile part of mine, and me throwing you away means that I am in turn ripping that off of myself. And there's nothing left to keep me airborne, so I just plummet down as well.
I love that. I love that a lot. I would like to keep fighting. I do not have any spades that can beat that, but I do have the Ace of Hearts. So I'm going to throw down the Ace of Hearts.
So aces can only be used to beat
kings. Oh, got it. Okay, then never mind. Then you take this. Then describe to me. Then best me. But know that ace is coming.
Yeah, I know. You got the ace in your sleeve. So yeah, I think we are like both falling. And it's like the camera cuts back to very far away to the point where we are just like two specks of light just like slowly dropping. And then it cuts up like incredibly close as you like fall and land on the dirt and bounce up just in time to see a giant metal fist like crack into your already damaged midsection.
And I think what is lost is all of the sensors just shut down, right? The systems go dark, and I am just left in like a tin can, relying strictly on instinct at this point, right? Like, that static that we heard earlier in a flashback scene as I kind of started to tune things out comes back and is louder and more oppressive, where it's just, now it's everything. Now I got nothing but static. Now I have nothing but white noise and the clanging, and that I'm just relying on my ability to just instinctually predict what you're going to do and hit the right button at the right time.
Yeah. Love it.
All right, it is now your clash.
So we are going to draw back to 7. Yes. So it is my clash now? Cool. I'm going to go to hearts.
Okay.
Say 3 of hearts. Your lover has a subconscious quirk or habit that they don't notice. What is it, and why do you love them for it? I think that Luxor has a habit of like doing a quick little like tap on every like electronic thing that they use. And it's like the podcast like check the mic kind of thing for the communications to tie into the world. And so like whether it's like a TV remote that you just like tap with your thumb, or like the guidance system in our like auto car where you like tap the destination that we want to go to, or even like just the lock to get into our apartment where you like tap the accept code little button. It's always a double tap. And I think that like we have this very cute thing where like if we are like cuddling together or like waking up in bed, like I think that Humidor will like tap your nose or like tap your cheeks and then like kiss there. I think it's a very cute little like thing that I tease you about.
I love that. I love that a lot. I would like to keep fighting. I'm going to throw down the 6 of hearts. The 6 of hearts. When your lover introduced you to their parents, how did you embarrass yourself and how did they reassure you? I talked so much. I'm usually, like I said, I'm quiet and patient. I was a babbling mess.
Oh.
Just, it's great. It's just great to meet you. I've heard so many nice things. I've been really just looking forward to like, I gotta say, like, are we having barbecue tonight? Because I've heard really great things about your barbecue. If we're not, that's fine. But I wanted you to know that like, we've been talking a lot about it. It sounds really great. I would love to like hear some of your recipes around it because I've got some I've heard such good things, and they're just like, it's okay. We like you. And they just like put a hand on my knee and they're like, we like you. You're fine. And I'm like, oh, fuck, that's such relief. Oh my god.
Hell yeah. I do want to keep fighting. I have the 7 of hearts. What is your lover's favorite food, and is it difficult to cook it for them? I think it's barbecue. I think your favorite food is like barbecued ribs, like slow smoked. Yep. And this is why it's so difficult. And I think going back to what you had said about the coffee is that like it's so hard to get like real animal ribs. Like texturized vegetable protein is acceptable.
Yeah, you can make it. You can make it taste pretty close, but at the same time, like, it's also hard to get like the right vegetable proteins. Like the ones that we get, it is hard to make them taste close. Like you could get close with like a nice seitan, but like, we're working with imitation seitan essentially.
Yeah. And I don't think you can slow smoke it. Like the first time that I did, I like opened the slow smoker and it was just like a pile of dust.
It's like a wet goop. It melts if it gets slow smoked.
Yeah.
Oh, that's very good.
Hey Jeff, do you want to keep fighting?
I do, but I can't beat a 7.
Okay. Oh, where did we leave off in that fight? Oh yeah, I just like punched you in the face after you bounced off the moon. And so I think like it picks up. We cut back after these flashbacks to like loving times. We cut back to this fight immediately, and you're like still in the air, and I grab your foot and do that like the Hulk smash thing from that first Avengers where I just like do an entire arc and slam you face first into the moon.
Oh, and the jetpack is shattered, right? Like the jetpack is the first thing that goes. The wings of it break off, and it just like it actually flies off mid-swing, and it's just like with the wings on it, it just kind of like putters off into the sky, and it's a mess.
And here's 7.
Okay.
Oh yeah, you start this one.
I'm gonna throw down. I'm gonna throw down the 7 of clubs. I'm gonna throw down the 7 of clubs.
Cool.
7 of clubs is, of course, the events of the war. 7 of clubs is I've befriended the mechanic who works on my mecha tirelessly. What is their name and how do we pass time between missions? We pass time. Her name is Starwipe Johannes. Starwipe.
Yes.
Starwipe. Starwipe and I pass time by we essentially I think there's a art mirror storytelling of like we pass time with card games, right? Like a lot of digital entertainment is shut off, especially around mission bases. We pass time like just playing really esoteric card games because we played poker for a while, we played Go Fish for a while, and now we're into like the really really like weird. We've each bought several books of 101 games you can play with a deck of cards, and we're into like 57 of each of those books.
Nice.
And we have deep opinions about it. And so I think as I'm getting slammed around, like at least one deck of cards is just bouncing around the cockpit.
Oh, good.
Taylor, would you like to keep fighting?
I would love to keep fighting,
right.
Jeff. I have a queen of clubs.
All right.
Whose face haunts you at night when you close your eyes? Oh goodness. I think it is. Oh, it's my flight commander.
Okay.
They were like a very stern person who brought me up from like enlisted rank into being a pilot. And I think in like one of the early episodes of whatever series this was, they like died in a spectacular like sacrifice so that my mech could get away from the podcast static. And so like that's another thing that just like keeps me going is that like I have so much of this vendetta and so much revenge that I need to enact. And I still remember my flight commander, Spider Ficus.
Good. Very good. Love it. Good name. Okay. I would love to keep fighting. And I would love to keep fighting because I have the King of Clubs. The King of Clubs is what would you give in order to retire and never have to fight again? I would, if I could walk away, and just never look back and know that the fighting was going to stop. I mean, I would take that boring spreadsheet job. The one that I've made up all these stories about. Like, it sounds like hell. It sounds like hell on earth, but I would take it. I'd take it in a heartbeat. If I didn't have to be in this cockpit at this moment, if I didn't have to do the things that I did, I would settle into that job and I'd never look back.
I want to keep fighting with the Ace of Clubs. Your faction did not start the disagreement that fuels the war, but they did cast the first stone. What did they do to cause the fighting? They blew up the communications relays. They sabotaged their own wireless towers to cut the communications off from each other. But it meant that they could no longer send out signal themselves. So it was that cut off your nose to spite your face. And that was the first act of violence that really erupted the galaxy.
Oh, that's great.
Jeff, do you want to keep fighting?
I do want to keep fighting, because I have the Four of Hearts.
Oh, sick.
And I'm going to throw down the Four of Hearts, which is, you and your lover confessed our feelings to each other under a sky filled with millions of stars. What did I promise them that night? I promised that I would do whatever I had to do to keep them safe. I promised that if it meant I would give up, I would shut off every one of those stars if it meant, if I had to, if your safety and comfort were at risk. If that's what it took to give you the life of comfort and happiness that you deserve, I would burn down every one of those stars. Taylor, would you like to keep fighting?
Jeff, I want to keep fighting because I have the King of Hearts.
Okay.
A pulse blast. Let me cut that. A pulse blast shatters the mirrored protection of your opponent, revealing their identity as your lover. How do you hesitate? Do you reveal your own identity in return? All cards in this clash are set aside and do not count for either pilot. So yeah, I think as you are struggling to your feet, it's just one laser shot skims the mirrored protection off of your visor. It's close enough that it doesn't rupture it, but I can definitely now see through the glass, and this mirrored protection hangs loose aluminum foil, and as you move it waves in the wind, or not in the wind, but it just waves in 0G. And I can see Luxor strapped in and piloting this mech, and I think that there would have been a further salvo of lasers, but just the hot tissue betcha is immobile right now.
Can I throw in a detail?
Yeah, yes, please.
Because I'm wearing, very luckily, I am wearing my full life support outfit. So when this thing shatters, I am protected from the exposure to space.
Yeah.
But also that means that on a certain extent, a lot of my identity is completely obscured.
Yeah.
But do you know what you see? When your cameras zoom in on the pilot, do you know what you see?
Yeah, and I think it's there is no mistaking.
Yeah, because it's the tap.
Yeah.
You see me operating on instinct, and you see that everything I'm doing is that tap, and you recognize it from the millions of times we've done it.
Oh, Jeff, that's really good.
That signature tap. Every move I'm making is 2 taps, and you're like, no, nobody else would. Oh, fuck.
Oh. So one of my like favorite things about mech fighting is when the pilots, the squishy little human pilots, get out of their mechs and like try to beat each other with their bare hands. Humidor like unbuckles everything and just hits like a vent button on the hot tissue betcha and is rocketed by the vacuum out of the hot tissue betcha and just like over this distance to like crash through the visor of the podcast static. And like I don't know that Humidor knows what to do. Oh goodness.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide what happens now. I think I also eject, and I think, like, I eject, and, like, mine is way less. I am ejected out, and, like, because my ship is so damaged, I am not shot up, I am not shot forward, I am shot kind of diagonally on an arc with the moon, and I just, like, hit it. I bounce 1 or 2 times. I am safely protected because there's, like, a little bit of a bubble shield, but, like, I hit the ground hard, and I skid into a crater, and that is about where you land next to me, is I'm just, like, sitting in this crater, and I'm just like, I gotta tell Starwipe about that. We gotta work on that.
Yeah, in theory, I won this clash. So I have a choice if I could keep fighting or if I want to stop fighting. And as a reminder, Jeff, either of us can stop fighting at any time.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to, the question is, as laid out in the book, I know this is the end game question, but, I mean, knowing that this war will not end unless I am stopped, do you stop? Do you stop me? And stop me does not necessarily mean killing me, but do you stop me knowing that the war will not end unless I am stopped?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think Humidor looks up at the ships, like, in the sky, like, shooting each other. And we get, like, a very Mass Effect 3 kind of, like, shot of, like, a very, like, just intensely silent surface of the moon with these 2 busted up robots and these 2 busted up humans, and then just interstellar war over them. And then I think Humidor pulls a sidearm. And this is going to be the heel turn.
Mm-hmm.
Humidor is going to keep fighting.
Okay.
So these cards go to the side. Humidor cannot stop fighting because of the debt that he owes his family.
All right.
And the vengeance that is owed him. So we each draw back up as much as we can. I don't know if there are 7 left.
All right, I've drawn 1.
I've got 1.
And I'm going to take this last one.
Yeah.
All right. Is it my clash or is it yours? It's mine, right? No, it's yours because I drew that we were in clubs for that one.
Yeah. So I'm going to go diamond and say 4 of diamonds.
Okay.
Civilian life. What animal do we keep as a pet and why are they so important to us? I don't think that we keep an animal. I think that we have, like, a small little bench of houseplants. Mm-hmm. That's near our apartment's window, and it's south-facing, so they get a lot of light, and they flourish. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Do you want to keep fighting, Jeff?
I do. I do want to keep fighting. I'm going to throw a 6. The 6 of diamonds. My sister and I don't talk much anymore. Why not? Because she is also in military service, and is, like, higher up than me and is doing things that are so confidential that, like, any contact we has to be extremely sparse. And so this is something that, like, these operations, these military obligations are, like, everywhere in my life, and they run deep and they run high. And there's this overwhelming sense of, like, this must continue. Taylor, would you like to keep fighting?
I would like to keep fighting. I have a 7 of diamonds. The 7 of diamonds is you owe someone a great deal of money back home. Who is it, and what will they do if the debts are unpaid? I think I owe a great deal of money to our landlord.
Okay.
Like, we have this apartment. It is nice. It's not huge, but it's nice. And I think, like, I keep promising our landlord that, you know, rent's going to be a little late. It's fine. I can pay you half of it now. And I think the landlord is the only person that knows that I'm a Mecha pilot. And that's the reason why like we've been able to underpay is because I think our landlord is sympathetic to the cause. But if it gets past a point, or if this debt goes unpaid, then I think that the threat of revealing the secret is something that's always brought up whenever we have this conversation. And let me pitch something to you, because I think that you also have this kind of relationship with your landlord.
Yeah. I think that's very good.
Yeah. Because I think that they also are maybe sympathetic to your cause and playing.
Oh, they're paying both sides just to get paid. Like, they understand that that's twice as much money coming to them if they play both sides.
Oh my goodness. Have we both just been like paying essentially rent, not telling the other person?
Yep.
Good. And the landlord's like, hey, you still owe me money, when in reality our entire rent is paid.
Yep.
Good. I hate this person.
Oh, I hate him. I hate him a lot. So I'm going to keep fighting with a 9 of diamonds. The 9 of diamonds. What argument did we have last week, and what did I do to comfort you after we made up? We had an argument. We had an argument about whether to move the plants into the bedroom or not, where it is, because it's on the second floor, because it's getting to be winter, and we didn't know if we wanted them to be higher up to get more heat, because heat rises. And it was just this completely silly like disagreement that just got really like, it's that moment when you have like the really simple disagreement that just keeps both sides just keep digging in their feet further and further until it's getting really like awful. And it's the type of thing that afterwards, I just moved the fucking plants. Honestly, I just like, and you came home from work and found the plants were just moved.
Yeah.
And it was the ultimate acknowledgement of like, I don't know why I dug in my feet. I don't know why I did that. Like, it is the ultimate just acknowledgement of like, I was wrong for digging in my feet. Because I was absolutely the first one to dig in and be like, no, I don't want to move them. It's a whole bunch of work.
Oh.
Taylor, would you like to keep fighting?
I would like to keep fighting. I have a 10 of diamonds.
Okay.
And that is, when you were a kid, your parents drove you very far to see something very important. Where did you go, and what did you see? I think that like our apartment is in it's in Alaska. Like within the Arctic Circle, because I think that climate change has rendered the equator just like almost uninhabitable. And so as the centuries went on, people just moved and went to the poles. But we drove down to Kentucky, where great-great-grandma Inscrutable was buried. And they gave me a very long, very like ham-fisted speech about loyalty and patriotism and duty. And I didn't understand it. But it was very vital to them. And I think like we stopped at like a landmark along the way, just like one of your side of the road attractions, and got like a family picture. And the week after we got back home, they were killed. So I don't remember what was said in the speech that they gave to me, but I know that like the ideas that they wanted to impart were important.
Okay.
Jeff, do you want to keep fighting?
I do want to keep fighting. I have the King of Diamonds.
Oh, shit.
The King of Diamonds is... What would you... Wait, no, that's not it. That's clubs. There it is. When you stand on the shores of a beach and let the water wash over your toes, what memory do you try to conjure from the edge of your mind? It is... All military recruits in the colonies are given a week vacation. It's literally they call it reconsideration week, because it is, if you're in, you're in. Like, you're not, like, this is not, there's no voluntary retirement. You are in until the colonies decide that, or in this conflict, you are in until the conflict is over. So they give you a week to reconsider, that, like, if you opt out in this week, that's fine. Go find another career. And there was the day beforehand, I stood on that beach and I let the water wash over my feet, and I weighed my options, and I pictured a life where I didn't sign that paper. And it was the longest few minutes of my life. And so I think about that moment, standing on that beach and thinking about, I think about a lot about the life that I pictured for myself, and whether I would prefer to have that life than the life that I have. Taylor, would you like to keep fighting?
I would like to keep fighting, but I don't have anything that can beat the King of Diamonds.
Okay. So I think the blow that I land is, I see you pull the sidearm, you just start, like, walking towards me. You shoot out, like, the bubble shielding around the chair, and I click out of it, and I spring off of this very springy cushioned seat, and I spear you. Like right in the gut. You go down hard, and your pistol goes flying.
Yeah. And I think there's a very small but very sharp rock on the surface of this moon, and it nicks something in, like, my elbow. And there's a very tiny gas leak in my suit now. And I'm going to start with 3 of spades. Your opponent barely connects. What minor system is damaged? And I think, like, I get up just in time for you to, like, get another haymaker into me. But, like, turned and blocking it mostly, so that, like, you're not hitting my body, but you are hitting my suit. I think it just takes out my emergency radar, or my emergency radio. So, like, I can't call for help now.
And I think with that, I'm going to answer the question of no. I think at that, I'm done fighting, right? I think I knock you to the ground, right? Like, your radar is off, your suit is leaking, and I grab a little, like, I grab, like, some rope, or, like, a seat belt, and I tear it, and I tie your elbow.
Yeah.
And I just, like, collapse next to you, and I'm done. I'm done fighting. I'm done with this. And I just sit. I just collapse next to you, and I sit.
Okay.
And for a moment before we count up the cards and we go to the end game, I think I just sit here and I'm like, I savor that quiet again. I savor that feeling of, I savor the quiet of the two of us sitting, breathing, panting, sweating. And I'm just like, I can't.
Hell yeah. So let's count up our cards.
Okay.
I have 11.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. You've got 12, I've got 13.
Okay. Yeah. Knowing that the war will not end unless your enemy is stopped, what do you do? Yeah, I am stopped.
I think I am. I think I just kind of sit next to you, and I know, like, I see your sidearm there, and I look at it for a long time, and I look at you, and I look at the sidearm, and I look at you again, I look at your elbow, which has been, like, patched, and you probably need to get inside at some point, and I'm just like, if we cross paths, and I don't even say anything out loud, because you know me, I have these conversations in my head. I just look at you, and I look at this, and I'm like, if we cross paths again, like, maybe this will make our next clash a little different. Maybe it won't, but stranger things, right? And I lay back in this crater, and I savor the silence. And I think that's game.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh, that was really good. Oh my god. That was beautiful. I loved
That
it so much.
I can't,
so
like, I'm speechless.
That rolled so hard. Oh my god. Taylor, thank you so much for coming on and playing it this way. This was amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jeff. This is literally the first time that I've ever played this game.
Oh, and I'm glad this got to be the game to do it, because that ruled. That was real good. So,
Whew.
How are you feeling? Debrief session time. You feeling good?
Yeah, I feel really good.
All right.
Yeah, I'm feeling like I don't like Humidor.
Oh, there's big, like, I've come around. I like Luxor, but I also feel like I don't like the colonies as a whole.
Yeah,
there's so much.
This was like a design intent. I was like, I don't want to say shit about what the Earth wants. I don't want to say shit about what the colonies want. But and I don't think that either of us did that. Like, neither of us talked about what the conflict was.
No,
because that's not important.
And we just talked about like how each of our cultures had sort of become toxic, and I loved that. That was very cool.
Yeah.
Like I definitely I have no idea why we're fighting or what we're trying to accomplish, but I do know that like both sides are fucked up and wrong, and that's great.
Hey, war is bad.
War is bad. Hey, war is bad, and war culture is toxic. So cool. Oh, dang. Yeah, I feel good. This was an emotional game. I love it was just good. It was good all the way through. It was emotionally taxing, but in the way that I wanted it to be.
Yeah. I think both of us did this at least twice, where we had either ended just like a really raw scene of violence, or we had ended a very like touching moment of connection and then just flipped it.
Yeah.
Like, there was after that really long string of spades, the decision to like then go into hearts was really great. And then I think that we had like something else there too, where like after a really intense like personal moment, we just like ripped into violence.
There was a particular moment that I really loved, which was like we were having this moment about like why we loved each other, and then there was the visual of the two of us going into this loving like kissing each other and making out, and then flipping it into like I could see that crash cut very nicely, that it was very cool and very like it hurt, but in a way that I liked, of like the crash cut of like, now fuck you, mech combat. Like that was cool.
Oh,
it was good. That was real good.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show and playing it with me. This was a blast.
Hell yeah, Jeff. Thank you for the opportunity.
So real quick, before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
You can find me online on Twitter at Leviathan Files. You can find this game and other amazing games at riverhousegames.itch.io. You can find Game Closet on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. Game Closet, an informal chat show with queer and LGBT plus folks from all sorts of tabletop role-playing game spaces.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing the show, Taylor. This was a blast. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me.
Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Taylor for coming on the show. That game was incredible. It was fun to play, fun to edit, just incredible. Be sure to check the show notes for links to, in order, The Treasure at This Dungeon is an escape from this dungeon, and we will never escape from this dungeon. A Kickstarter funding in about 62 hours at the time of me posting this episode. Descent into Midnight, which is running for about another 4 days. Go back that. Incredible game. And Breakup on Reentry, which is available on itch, theoretically forever. Unless Taylor decides to spontaneously kickstart this game as well, at which point I'll back this game as well. And of course, be sure to check everything Taylor's doing at riverhousegames.com, and be sure to follow Taylor on Twitter at Leviathan Files. Then while you're on Twitter, follow us at Party of One Pod, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/partyofonepodcast. Join our Discord community at bit.ly/partyofonediscord. Check out our merch store at bit.ly/partyofonemerch. And support the show, as well as other games that I design, podcasts I produce, articles I write, and all that other stuff at patreon.com/JeffStormer, coffee.com/JeffStormer, and paypal.me/JeffJStormer, because Jeff Stormer was taken. And speaking of other podcasts that I produce, if you have not listened to All My Fantasy Children, you are missing out on something truly special. It is something that I love making with my best friend every week. It's a delight. AMFC is a character creation, storytelling, and world-building podcast on the One Shot Podcast Network, powered by you. Every week, my best friend Eric Tanosais and I take a listener-submitted prompt. We spin it into an original fantasy character, and we populate a shared universe one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday-ish at oneshotpodcast.com. Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers, and the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to inquire about advertising rates, coming onto the show, or press coverage of Party of One, you can email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And that's it for me. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance, and as always, party on, everybody.